Alright guys, so we're going to continue on with hyperbolas, and what we need to do here is write the equation of this particular hyperbola in standard form. Okay, so the first thing we need to do here is identify if we're dealing with a horizontal or a vertical hyperbola. Now let's do a little bit of review here. So a horizontal hyperbola will look something like this, right? So we'll have our grid, okay, and we'll have something that looks like this. Okay, if we have a vertical, well, it's just going to be the opposite, right? So here's, let's do this in a different color. Go over this one too. Okay, so vertical will look like this. Okay, so again, horizontal, vertical. All right, so we need to determine what we're dealing with here. So again, we have the key points here. We're given the center, right, which is going to be the origin here. And we're given the vertex and the focus or the foci. Now, it's important to remember here that the vertex and also the foci, they are going to occur on the transverse axis, okay? So, for example, when you're dealing with a horizontal hyperbola, your transverse axis, okay, is going to be the x, okay? Your conjugate axis is going to be the y, all right, and vice versa. If you had a vertical hyperbola, your transverse is going to be the y, and your conjugate is going to be the x. Now, some key points here. The vertex and foci always occur on the transverse axis. Okay, so if we look at this, right, at the coordinates, we have 0, 12, right? And the focus, or the foci, is going to be at 0, 20, right? That's occurring on the y-axis, meaning, right, we must be dealing with a vertical hyperbola because, again, the vertex and the focus or the foci occur on the transverse axis, right? So that's telling us, right, it's occurring on the y here, meaning we're dealing with a vertical hyperbola, okay? So we know that we're dealing with a vertical hyperbola now, okay? So our next step here is to write the equation of a vertical hyperbola, right? And that's going to be the following, all right? So we'll have y squared all over a squared minus x squared all over b squared equal to 1, okay? Where a is talking about your vertices, okay, on the transverse axis. B is talking about your co-vertices on the conjugate axis. In this case, that will be on the x, right? And we have our focus or foci here. Now, notice what we have. We have the vertex, so we have our A value here, right? Because that's going to be, again, on the transverse axis, so that will be our A value. All right, we do not have our B value, which will be our co-vertex or co-vertices occurring on the conjugate axis. But we can find that by using the following relationship, all right? And that's going to be this. We have C squared equal to A squared plus B squared, okay? Where C is your foci, A is going to be your vertices occurring on the transverse axis, and B is going to be your co-vertices occurring on the conjugate axis. All right, we have C and we have A, and we can solve for B, right? Again, this is a relationship that all hyperbolas have. So if we just go ahead and plug this in, we have a focus, right, of 0, 20. So what this is telling you, it's the distance from the center of the hyperbola. So in this case, our center is 0, 0, right? The focus is occurring at 0, 20. Well, that will be a distance of 20, right? So we have 20 squared, right? Same thing. Our A value here is talking about our vertices occurring on the transverse axis, right? And it's going to be the distance to the center. So if it's occurring at 0, 12, right, and our center is at 0, 0, well, that will be 12 squared plus b squared, all right? And we can go ahead and solve this now. All right, so we go ahead and put this in our calculator. We get the following. 20 squared is going to be 400. All right, 12 squared is 144 plus b squared, right? So we get 400 minus 144, and that's going to be 256 equal to b squared, all right? So we now have enough information to go ahead and just fill in our values. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and fill these in. So we'll have y squared all over. Now, what is a squared going to be? Well, we know that my a value here is going to be 12, right? When we square, it's 144. Right? Minus x squared all b squared here is going to be 256 equal to 1, alright? And this here is going to be your final equation, alright? Now, in past videos, I talked about how we can go ahead and graph this now. I talked about how we can graph the asymptotes that are part of this hyperbola. Okay, so if you haven't seen those videos, make sure you go back and watch them. Okay, however, for this video, I'm just going to end here at the equation. Alright, and that is it.